Namaste. I'm making this recording for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it is for anybody who has a slight injury and can't do regular yoga. It will be a nice, gentle class that you may or may not be able to do. Of course, as always, you need to listen to your body and assess whether it's for you or not. I'm also doing the recording for people who I often come across that say they can't do yoga because they're not flexible enough. So it's a really good reason why you should do yoga. So this is just a little taste of very gentle yoga asanas. And also it will be all done on the floor. So there's no getting up and down. So my regular classes will be focusing on strength, balance, flexibility, and peace of mind. This class today is mostly going to be focusing on the flexibility side of things and also the peace of mind. So it will be a lot different to what I normally do. So as always, and I've already mentioned it, listen to your body. If you do have an injury, make sure that you have got your health providers okay to be doing some yoga. Sometimes an exercise that may be really good, for example, for your back, might be good for one person and not another person. So that's why you should always listen to your body and just suss it out for yourself. And if you can't do anything, just sit it out or do a pose that you know does benefit you. So all nice, gentle poses that we'll be doing today. A lot of them are super good for tired and stressed out, aching backs. Also good for anyone who is suffering from sciatic nerve problems. Not if it's super bad maybe, but again, you need to address whether it's going to be okay for you or not. So let's get started. Just one other thing, you might not need to have a few little props handy, so you might want to run and get those. So this is a kneeling pad. It's just a piece of rubber that I picked up from Kmart, I think it was. We've got a Pilates ring. You could also use a band or a towel. It's just for when you have trouble reaching, you can use a band or that. And blocks, you really can't do a yoga class without having a block handy just to help you get into the pose and keep really nice alignment. All right, so I know you're dying to get on with it, so let's do this. So we're going to come down onto our back. This is a really good prop too, so you might need a pillow or something as well. So we're going to lay down on our back to start with and just draw your knees into your chest. Now, little tip here when you lay on your back, I've got a ponytail, so it's my head's right on the bumpy part. But if you lay on your back and you find that your chin is sticking up in the air, it may mean that you need to grab a pillow such as this and just pop it underneath your head so that you then just have a normal gap between your chin and your chest. So just check that out and make sure that you're okay there. We grab the knees and we just pull the knees in towards the chest and then a little release and do that again and a little release. One more time, drawing it in and a release. Place your hands on top of your knees and just make a little circle or maybe a big circle with your knees. So this gives you a very cheap version of a massage to the lower back. And around the other way. So we're just getting our body ready to do a little bit of stretching. Let's place your right foot down onto the mat and bring your hands down to the middle of the shins or down closer to your ankle, just going to depend on your knees here. And then draw the knee in towards your chest. And then bring it back to the first position. So it's just a tiny move. Bring it in. And then let it go. And again. Now, if that's feeling okay and you'd like something that's a little bit more challenging, you can extend your right leg down along the ground and do the same thing. So we're drawing the knee into the chest and a release. If you're feeling any discomfort in your knee, you might find that bringing your hands up closer to your knee makes it feel a little bit better. So play around with that and see what works for you. And we'll just do one more of those. And then bring the other knee in. Place the left foot down onto the mat. And then bring your hands down your shins if you can. And we start that pull and release on this leg now. And you might like to start focusing on your breathing as well. So you're breathing out as you pull in. Take a breath in as you release. So that we're starting to match our breath with our movement. If you want to straighten out that bottom leg, you can. And we'll just do one more of those. Bring both knees in and just that little massage once again. Rolling the knees around, back around the other way. And then place the soles of the feet down onto the mat. Walk your feet out towards the edge of your mat. Press the palms of your hands down just gently and just start to sway the knees from side to side. So it might be a great big movement, or it might be a smaller move. So once again, you play around with that and see what works for you. You might want to come down to one side, hold it there for a moment, and then go to the other side, or you might like to just keep moving side to side. Right, from there we roll over onto your side and we start to bring ourselves up. So we're going to come up onto all fours. So that you've got your hands underneath your shoulders and you've got your knees underneath your hips. From there, we will bring our left leg through. So bring it all the way through. You might want to have a block handy for this one so that you can bring your left leg through and have your right hand on the block. So it's in a little bit of a medium-sized position. I'm going to place a pad underneath my knee here as we tuck the toes under at the back and start to drop the hips down and forward. I'm going to turn around so you can see the side angle position. So we've got the leg back here. We've got the knee stacked over the top of the ankle here. And we're starting to feel a stretch in the hip flexor in here as we come forward. Now, you can have your toes tucked under at the back, or you could have your foot flat. And it's nice just to rest your weight on the block here. But if you don't have a block, you can do it down onto the mat. And that's as far as we will go today as we keep it gentle. You're feeling a stretch coming up through the quads here and into the hip flexor. So the hip flexor often gets really tight from sitting a lot in the day. Or sometimes it can be from taking steps and tighten it up as well. But the other thing is we often store tension there from emotional types of tension. So it's just nice to release that. And it's almost like a relief. Now we're going to hold this pose for a couple of minutes, mostly because I'm doing this as a yin yoga pose, this particular pose, not all the poses today, so that it gives our body a chance to really release any tension. We start to focus on our breath, so breathing in through the nostrils and out through the nostrils or out through the mouth if you would prefer. And just imagine that you're drawing your breath all the way down to the hip flexor. Now remember, if you're feeling discomfort in the knee at the back, just place some padding underneath it, a towel, a pillow, whatever works for you. Holding a pose for a longer amount of time also helps us release any tightness in the fascia. So it's not just our muscles that we need to stretch out and keep flexible. It's also our fascia, our ligaments, our muscles. And if we don't do something to keep our bodies supple, we'll just start to tighten up more and more. From there, we're very slowly going to start to make our way back. So we're back on all fours now, and we're just going to come back into a child's pose, just a nice easy one. Head to the mat or on your block or folded. All right, we come up, and now we're going to bring our other leg, our right leg through. Bring your block over, tuck your toes under or flat, whatever works for you. And then just let the hips drop down as we now do the other side. Really, we're going to have our ankles stacked underneath the knee. We also want to think about having a nice long spine. So if you're looking down or around, or if you're looking up, you've bent your spine. So we want to have, like you've got a small orange or an apple or a tennis ball just underneath your chin. And that'll make sure that we're nicely aligned all the way from the tailbone up to the crown of the head. Now, once we're in that position, we know we're going to hold it for a while. Let's start to focus on our breath. Taking long, deep breaths. And as I mentioned before, we're just going to hold this particular pose for a while, allowing the body to release, let go of tension, not only in the muscles, but in the fascia as well. Just a couple more breaths. So you can do this pose a little quicker and not hold it quite so long if you're in a bit of a hurry, but we don't really want to rush things when we're doing yoga. All right, very slowly, just start to make your way back. Coming back onto all fours, and then bringing your hips back so that you're coming back into child's pose, maybe folding the arms. And just taking a moment as we use this as a counter pose that we just did. And then coming up. So the next pose is Sphinx pose. And you might want to have a cushion similar to this bolster for that, but you don't have to. So we'll start off without it, just in case you haven't got something similar. So we come down onto your belly. We tuck our elbows right in close to the rib cage and underneath your shoulders. Palms of the hands are facing down. Your legs along the tops of the feet are pressing down onto the mat. Press your thighs down and also press the pelvis down as we push down into the forearms and just lift the body a little, so that as we're pressing down our feet and our pelvis, we start to feel a stretch coming up into the abdominal muscles, And just take a moment to notice the rhythm of your breathing. As you're breathing, you feel your belly expand and press into the mat. Lift your head away from your shoulders. So this is a really nice one to open up into the chest, shoulders. And we're going to hold this one for a little while as well. Just notice how that one feels. Make sure that it feels okay for you. Now, if you want a little bit more support, you can bring a pillow underneath the ribs there. And then you don't have to use your back muscles quite as much. So it's like getting a little bit of a back bend. So particularly good if you're in a job where you're sort of hunched over a desk or hunched over anything in particular. Good for cyclists that ride in a hunched over position. So we just counteract that hunching over sort of movement. Keep going with those deep breaths. Gently pressing down through the palms of the hands, long through the neck. Pressing down through the forearms. But if you're using a bolster or pillows underneath support, you can tend to relax a little bit more and just go with the flow of the back bend. And then from there, we're coming up, back onto all fours once again. Hands underneath your shoulders. And we'll just have a little cat pose, tucking the tailbone under, tucking your chin under, breathing out. And then breathe in, lift the tailbone up, lift your gaze up. And again, so you've got lots of movement with that tailbone. This is a really nice one to help release any tension in the spine. One more time. And coming down. So we're going to come back down, laying down onto the floor again. We've got our knees bent, and remember, if you need a little cushion under your head, now's the time to put that under. We bring our hands down by the sides and just a little bit away from the sides. Press the palms of your hands down. Bring your feet up as close to your buttocks as you can. And we just tilt the pelvis up. So it's like we're lifting the tailbone up off the mat. Now notice, as you do that, you press your belly button is pressing down towards your spine. So you're activating your abdominal muscles and you start to feel a stretch come up through the quads a little. You might even find that your gluteal muscles are switching on a little bit, and then we relax. So that's your first option. It's a really nice option to help release any tension out of the lower back. If you're comfortable with it, you can go back into that, lifting the tailbone and come up into a full bridge. So now we're going to squeeze into the buttocks. We make sure that all four corners of the feet are pressing down into the mat, and you're just gently pressing down your arms and the palms of your hands. As we hold it here. Keep holding, squeezing into the buttocks. And then make your way down again. Now we're going to do that one again. So you've got two options so far. You might be just lifting the tailbone and pressing the belly button down. You might be coming up into the full bridge, or you might like to grab your yoga block, have it on the flat side, and place it down underneath your buttocks, round about, not right on the tailbone, but where the meaty part just starts in the buttocks. And we just hold it here in a relaxed state. So we're not pushing anything down, we're not holding anything up. So your choice here. So just lift the tailbone, or maybe go up into the full bridge, or maybe have the block underneath your buttocks. If you've done this one before and you know it's okay, you can bring the block up higher, but you really do need to make sure that you've done it in the first position first, and that it feels okay. It is a nice position to help you release any tension, but if you've got any back injuries, do it with the block laying down flat, just so you know that it's going to be okay. It's always better to err on the side of caution. And then if everything goes okay and you feel like you want to try something else, that's the time to do it after you've been cautious about it. And then we release and bring the buttocks back down to the mat, and just take a moment just to notice the sensation, especially if you've had the block underneath you. And then just do a little windscreen wiper move with the knees, just a little one, side to side. And then from there, just walk the feet back in again if they've moved our way, and we bring our left leg up and place it over the top of your right leg. Flex your foot, and then with your left hand, press your knee away. And just see how that feels. That might be a tight stretch for you, and that might be as far as you go. If you feel like you can handle something a little stronger, you can bring your hands around the back of the right leg, making sure that your head stays lying down on the mat and that you're relaxed and comfortable through the upper body. Keep your foot flexed. And again, if you feel like that's super easy and you want to make it a little bit harder, you can bring your hands around the front, around the shins. So it's just a matter of playing around with it and seeing what is nice for you. This is a nice hip opener one. Feeling a stretch in through the glutes. I'll hold this one for maybe 2 minutes or so, and you can hold it longer if you want to, but for this video, we'll just keep it a little on the shorter side. Start to focus on your breath. So that by focusing on our breath, we're taking the breath a little bit deeper. Quite often as we go through our day, our breath is shallow. We don't even realize it. So this is a nice time to set aside for not only working on movement, but working on your breath as well. Each time you breathe out, see if you can relax a little bit into the pose. From there, we change over to the other side, and you might find that one side is different to the other. So let's just start with putting our foot up onto the left leg first and just pressing the knee away from you. And just notice how that feels. So if you've got any injury, or maybe if you've got a little bit of sciatic problems, you might find that this is as far as you go for this one, for this side. Or if you feel it's okay, you might like to reach around, grab the back of the thigh or around the shin and just draw it in. Coming back to your breath. It's always nice when you're doing these yoga videos. I don't play any music generally because it causes problems with copyright. So this way you can choose your own music and have it playing in the background. I like to have my oils going as well. I'll just take 3 or 4 more deep breaths on this side. And then we come out of that, bring your hands to the back of the thighs and just start to straighten up the legs. And then bend, placing the feet down onto the mat. A little bit of a windscreen wiper move again. Now we have one more pose that we are going to do. This last pose is a pose called legs up the wall. It's a really nice end of session or end of day pose to do, but you're going to need a wall, all right? So let's roll over onto your side, make your way up and over to a wall. If you need a pillow for your head, bring your pillow with you. Now I'm going to be doing legs up the shutters. So what we need to do is come right up close to a wall. And I usually find if I turn side on so that I can get my buttocks pretty close to the corner of the wall, but you do want to have just a little bit of a gap. And then we lie down and bring your legs up the wall. I'm just going to do a little wiggle a little bit closer. So your legs are straight up. You're in a relaxed position, so you can have your hands resting on your belly, by your sides, whatever feels comfy for you. This is a really nice one to release tension in the legs. So we're not really aiming at stretching. We're just aiming at relaxing the legs up. Great for your circulation. Great if your legs are tired or aching, or if you tend to hold a bit of fluid in the legs at the end of the day. And this is a nice one that you can hold for 20 minutes if you really wanted to. Nice one to do just before you go to bed. Maybe you could even do a meditation with it. So stay with that for a moment or two. I'm just going to come out of it, but stay with it a little bit longer. As that concludes our session today. So stay where you are while I just have a little chat to you. So hopefully you found that beneficial, particularly if you do have a little injury or you feel like you can't do yoga. And I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button at the end when you come out of the pose you're in now, maybe even leave a comment. And if you know anybody who could benefit from it, you're quite welcome to send along the link to anyone that you think will benefit from it. Thank you so much for joining me today. You're welcome to stay in that pose now. As I said, up to 20 minutes. A really nice pose, nice calming pose. Namaste.